Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. We're going to continue the top 100 board games of all time list with numbers 90 through 81 for the 2023 edition. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure that you do. It is the best way to help us grow. And for those of you already subscribed, thank you so much for the continuous support. Let's talk about the best board games of all time. Starting with number 99 in this section of the list, new to the list is Oathsworn Into the Deepwood, set in a grimdark fantasy world where you are sort of a cross between Witcher and Attack on Titan. You're this band of Oathsworn sent to defeat these terrible monsters and save these enclosed cities. The game is broke up into two separate halves. You have a story half where you're going to be going around the city. There's some lovely narration or storybooks that you can read to guide you through it, and then your decisions will take you into an encounter portion. You'll use your cards, your abilities, and powers to hack and slash the different body parts off of these large enemies. They're asymmetric in nature with different AI decks that's going to be driving their actions, but eventually you'll take them out, gain loot, and then continue this process through an overarching campaign. My favorite part about this game, though, is the skill test system that revolves around dice and cards, and you're going to be doing this a lot in both halves of the game. You're basically allowed to roll as many dice as you want, and then after your roll, you'll check if you have two blanks. If you have two blanks, you fail, but if you have one or less, then you have succeeded. It's such an awesome feeling to count up all of your pieces after you determine, oh yes, I've actually passed this test, and see what sort of success you get. In addition, you're able to do a combination of dice and cards. So these card decks represent the different dice, and they have a basically equally distributed amount of successes and misses in them. And so you're able to sort of game the system and pick what dice and what card combinations you want to use. If you want to use all dice, or if you know that you have some successes left in certain decks, you can use the decks for those specific tests. So that is my number 90, Oathsworn Into the Deepwood. My number 89, also new to the list, goes to Ticket to Ride. This is a classic rummy-style card game where you're using those sets of colored cards to put out your presence on a main central map. These different routes will allow you to complete these ticket cards to gain points at the end of the game, but you also get points just for building out routes and having the longest connected one at the end of the game. Now, my favorite part about this is the actual collection of the cards themselves. It's a simple choice where you're either collecting cards into your hand 2 at a time, or you can take a wild for a single card, or you're using those cards to actually put out that presence. And so that choice of, oh, I could try to get max value and be as efficient as possible by just getting single cards and holding them for big plays. But if you're doing that, you're not putting out that presence on the board, and all the other players at the table have the opportunity to do so, and there are connection points that you may need to prioritize over others. So you have that constant choice of, do I take or do I play? I love that. It permeates the entire experience. Now, this is my preferred version because it has such a low rules overhead with no additional rules or extra expansions, but I like the things that Europe brought to it with the stations to help you share the tracks, or the varied routes that have the push your luck mechanisms added to them. So that's my number 89, Ticket to Ride. My number 88 goes to Mind Management, another new game to the list. This is a hidden movement game where you're either playing as the rogue agents or the recruiter. The recruiter is trying to go around this map recruiting people towards Mind Management's nefarious goals, but the rogue agents are trying to stop that from happening using clues and taking actions to help reveal it and hopefully capture them. The coolest thing about this game, aside from the art, the aesthetic, and its relationship to its source material, is the shift system that allows you to balance the different factions. I love this because it's like having essentially 12 separate mini expansions. Well, I'm looking at it now, 14 separate mini expansions that are meant to balance the two different sides. For example, say the rogue agents win the first game, then the Mind Management, the recruiter, is going to get their first little package here that gives them additional components to help bolster their side's chances of winning. And this will go back and forth as the sides level themselves to the skill ability of the players, but also adds these new unique components that are going to get you excited to play more and more. But that being said, the core game itself is amazing, but having these little modules is something I love, and the fact that it has a purpose driven towards it with that balancing system. The shift system is an amazing concept. So that's my number 88, Mind Management. 87 goes to Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice. This was number 70 last year. It has you playing as a group of assassins going on stealth missions, trying to complete a variety of objectives. You'll set up your map tiles, and then you'll deploy your characters, collecting items and using them to be as stealth as possible. But when you're ready to it, you flip that switch and you say, okay, we're about to start fighting. Everybody knows you're here, and you have to deal with those consequences. My favorite part about this game, though, are those items that I was talking about. You'll be collecting them throughout your experience, and you're encouraged to use them. A lot of times you'll be cleaning up bodies and hiding them so people don't know you're actually there, and when you do that, you'll get to search and gain new items. And you're doing this pretty often, so the game pushes you to actually spend them. You can use them for their one-time effects, you can use them in order to gain new weapons that you can consistently use, or you can use them for crafting purposes. And every time you play a mission, particularly in the early parts of it, you're going to be unlocking new items for a shared item deck that add to your options for tactical choices during your gameplay. I love the entire experience, and now it's even more available with the miniatures version being the exclusive one, and now there's a standee version so anybody can get a chance to play Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice, my number 87. Number 86 goes to Werewords Deluxe Edition. This is a combination of One Night Ultimate Werewolf, a social deduction game that's app-driven, paired with 20 questions. The way it works is you'll have a mayor who knows a secret word, and they're trying to get everybody to say this word so that their team can win. If the good team's able to figure it out, then the werewolves must reveal themselves and try to figure out who the seer is, one of the characters who's sort of a sleeper agent that knows what the actual word is. But if the werewolves are able to make sure nobody guesses the correct word, then everybody in the town is able to guess a werewolf. So it adds this awesome layer, and this is actually just my favorite part of the entire experience, this layer of an additional game on top of a classic social deduction role selection style game. You still have all the abilities, the effects that are present there, but when they're paired with this word system, it gives you purpose to your lies. It gives you a reason to veer off course, to pretend, to actually lie and put an agenda out there, but it's also trackable with the different tokens, knowing who's saying yes, who's getting yeses and nos from the 20 question experience portion. Werewords' brilliance is in its pairing of the 20 questions format to a classic social deduction game, and it's one you need to give a try. So that's my number 86, new to the list, Werewords. Number 85 goes to the Quacks of Quedlinburg. Number 68 last year, this is a push your luck game where you play as quacks. You're doctors collecting ingredients and putting them to your pot, trying to go as far as you can without exploding. If you get more than 7 of these white chips, you will bust, but you always have the choice to either bolster your bag or go for points. My favorite part about this game, though, are the effects of the different chips. As you play, you're going to be able to unlock and reveal new types of chips, and you'll be able to add up to 2 to your bag each round and benefit from their abilities. There are several of these different tiles that you'll be able to pick from, and you'll randomize the setup, making each of your experiences something exciting and interesting as you see how the combinations of these different chips work together. And they use all of the mechanisms that are present in the game, keeping that bag building in mind, the busting, the upgrading of chips, and the other facets, rubies, event cards, etc. All of these are kept in mind with the special abilities and powers, making them gripping, exciting, and intuitive when you actually put them into practice. So that is my number 85, the Quacks of Quedlinburg. My number 84, number 97 last year, is the Isle of Cats. This has you playing as people who are rescuing these cats from the evil Lord Vesh. You'll be playing in rounds where you'll get currency, spend that currency on drafting cards, and use those cards to collect cats and treasures to fill up your boat. My favorite part about this game, though, is the drafting. As you play, you're going to have the option of taking 2 cards each hand, and these cards come in a variety of options. You have things that give you treasure, things that give you initiative so you can pick those cats first, things that actually let you take more cats, special abilities that give you more currencies, wild cats, but my favorite things here are the objectives that you can draft. Now these objectives, there's only one of them of each type in the entire deck, so when you see it, that's your opportunity to take it and give yourself additional scoring criteria. And it has to do with all of the different facets of the game. Getting your rats covered, getting all the specific color, trying to fill up certain portions of your boats, but you have to commit to them right when you take them. And I love that so much, that you're always giving that choice of, do I take this, but I'm losing out on the things that are driving me to those other objectives? And it's such an amazing feeling once you've picked all of these scoring options and then you get them at the end, you've satisfied them. Oh, it's so good. I love that entire sensation, and the drafting is perfect here. So that is my number 84, the Isle of Cats. Number 83, 71 last year, goes to Caverna, the Cave Farmers. This has you playing as a family of dwarves who have 2 different farming areas. One with all sorts of animals and grain, but you also have your cave where you're going to be mining for ore and building all sorts of abilities in the form of buildings. Also new furnishings for more dwarves to live, and of course, you can't forget that endgame scoring. At its heart, it's a worker placement game that has these accumulation spots. You're going to be able to go to a variety of spaces to get special powers and abilities, and then use those resources to build things for your home, whether it be in your farm area or the mountains. My favorite part about this game, though, is the exploration mechanism with the adventure system. So there are ways that you can craft tools for your dwarfs. You put these little hats on them, amazing, these little helmets and shields, and then you can send them out on adventures if you go to a space with this little axe symbol. And once you do that, based on the level, you're going to be able to get some awesome effect that no one else is able to do that round, because it's a worker placement game. You block the spot. I love this because it allows you to invest in specific workers, as opposed to making sure you just have a bunch of these normie workers that are going to be going out into that middle board section. So I like that option where it's not forcing you to go down a specific route, and these people that are going out on adventures can do so many different things, from breeding animals to bringing back full-on dwellings, cows, to allowing you to work on whatever strategy you want to focus on. And I like that it gives you some freedom and sort of a way to patch up some things that you're missing out on other spaces of the game board. I love the entire system of the adventure, and there's even a little appendix portion that explains the reasoning that they're bringing these back and a little story about each. So I love that. That is my number 83, Caverna. My number 82 goes to Teotihuacan, City of the Gods. This was number 54 last year. It has you using a dice worker system in a rondel fashion as you go around this board, taking actions, aging up your dice, and eventually, once they get to that peak power level, they will ascend, reset back to their weaker state, but then give you additional bonuses and scoring opportunities. You'll be taking a lot of actions that allow you to decorate, score points with the characters that have ascended or have passed away, and the death track. You can climb up these different ability tracks, gaining resources as well as special powers through technology. But my favorite thing about this game has to be the way that the resources are given in this grid system. So when you eventually move your pieces along, they're going to end up landing on these spots. And based on how many you have there, you're going to generate resources. For example, if you went to this rock space, because I have 2 dice, I'm going to use this center row. And because my lowest one's a 2, I'm going to use this middle column. You find out where those 2 meet, and in this case, you're going to get 2 rocks. I love how easy this system is to read and look at and understand the power levels and the scaling, how you're going to want to power up all of your different dice to benefit from where they are, and then how you're sort of grouping the dice to try to build these amazing turns by working them around and manipulating the movement of the game. In addition, some of the expansions use this same grid system for some of the other core actions that were not like this in the core game, so I love that they've moved that to all of the different portions, because it's something I find so satisfying, building up those combos in this sort of microcosm in this entire experience. That's my number 82, Teotihuacan. Closing out the list is my number 81, Three Sisters. Another game that's new to the list here, coming out in 2022. Three Sisters has you playing as a farmer, using the Three Sisters method of crop farming, where you're growing beans, corns, and pumpkins all at the same time. In this game, you'll have a rondel phase where you'll be drafting dice, and the dice not only give you the action of where you've drafted them from, but they'll also allow you to plant in a specific field. And this is one of my favorite parts about this game, is the pairing of this long-term scoring in the field phase with the immediate actions of the rondel spaces. I love how you are always thinking about the future when you're basing your planting, because it takes a while for certain of these things to grow. The corn will always take a while to grow. You need corn before you can start growing your beans, but the pumpkins also grow at different rates, so it's up to you when you want to invest in them based on the bonus actions that you want to take. And then the bonus actions, of course, the combos, the connections. Every time you're taking one thing, you're generally building up an engine to propel yourself further with a specific strategy. For example, you may invest heavy in sheds. One strategy that I enjoy recently is building towards perennials. There's this farmer market fancy label that you can get, so anytime you go to the farmer's market, you get a bonus perennial action, and there are all these columns with a variety of effects that can either affect your watering levels, your garden, your fruits. So many choices, and it's a consistent progression of choices, and you're getting better stuff as they go along as you climb up the different tracks. It's a game that'll pull you in and keep you excited, and the solo mode sort of twists this on its head, as the enemy is going to be eliminating your choices, forcing you to prioritize specific things and push you down strategies at a bit quicker pace. I love this one. That is number 81, Three Sisters. And that's the list. That's this section, number 90 through 81. Now at the end, we're going to quickly reflect on some of the movers, what changed, what was added, and things like that. So first off, let's talk about all these new games. About half these games were brand new to the list, with Oathsworn, Ticket to Ride, Mind Management, Werewords, and Three Sisters. That's awesome. All these new games I've had a great time playing, and not all of them necessarily came out last year, which I appreciate. I love that Ticket to Ride and Werewords got some additional play this past year. Go-to games for this small, quick experience, but with still satisfying gameplay. I'm going to quickly touch on some of the movers, starting with Assassin's Creed, Brotherhood of Venice. This experience I still think is amazing, but I think the reason it dropped from 70 to 87 has to do with the campaign system. It's not one that I am going to be pulling out all the time, particularly with people who are just excited to drop in for a mission, so I think that's why it has dropped a little bit. Still a very strong campaign system, and one that I do wholeheartedly recommend. Quecks of Quedlinburg also has dropped a little bit. It's not one that I'm recommending as much, but it is one that I am still bringing to things and having a fun time when it does get played. So I always have a good time with this one. Has some amazing highs, but also some low lows at certain points. Isle of Cats actually increased from 97 to 84, and I think that has to do with the Explore and Draw that was released. It made me really appreciate and reflect back on the original Isle of Cats and how much I love that drafting, and Explore and Draw just made me miss it so much that I immediately played Isle of Cats and just enjoyed that so much more. It also came out with a bunch of expansions this year with new additional modules that you can add. The last major change here was with Teotihuacan City of the Gods. I'm not sure why this one dropped so much. It might have to do with some of the expansion bloat, and now that there's just so many options, you have to relearn certain parts and look up these different technologies and abilities, but I don't find it to be that much of a problem. I still love the first expansion. I like those player powers. We saw something similar in Zolkin, and also the addition of those boards. It makes Teotihuacan one that you're still going to keep on playing and have a great time with, but you'll have to reference those abilities, which can add to a little bit of that setup time. But that's it. Those are our 90 through 81 for the top 100 board games of all time. I'm curious to hear what you thought about this portion of the list. What games were you excited to hear from? What games were you surprised by? And which of these games do you love? I'd love to hear what you think, but thank you so much for watching SideGame Strong.